Hi everybody, my name is Victoria. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm talking about all of the books that I finished in the month of August. And before I jump into the book reviews, I just want to invite you to subscribe to this channel if you're not already subscribed, and also hit the little bell icon so that you are notified every time I post a new bookish video. So compared to previous months this year, August was a pretty solid reading month for me. I finished 4 books, and funny enough, all of the books that I read this month, I am giving the same star rating. I don't particularly know why that happened, just like a weird coincidence, but yeah, pretty much all of the books that I read this month were 4 stars as far as like Goodreads star ratings go. So first I want to talk about The Vampire by John Polidori, and this was our group read for the Legendary Readathon that we did with Christy and Naomi and Rainey, and thank you for those of you that participated. Some people like read a ton of myth and retelling pairings, and it was really fun to see the different things that people were coming up with. There were a lot of like Brothers Grimm's fairy tales and retellings, which was really fun to see. So I thought it was a really neat readathon. So thank you for participating if you did. And so the Vampire was our group read, and then we also read Twilight as our pairing. And so we read a very early original vampire story, and this is very short. The Vampire is like 40 minutes on audio, so I don't know like the page count. And for this one, I listened to this on audio, and I used a YouTube audiobook, which was very well done. I'll actually link it below in case you're interested. So The Vampire is the culmination of a stormy weekend that was shared by Mary Shelley and Lord Byron and John Polidori, possibly someone else, I can't remember now. But they had this stormy weekend together, and they all kind of challenged each other to write a ghost story or a spooky story of some kind. And the result of that from John Polidori was the beginning of vampires as we kind of know them in like classical European society. So this was really interesting to read like from that perspective, and just thinking about vampires as this fresh new thing, and like what a scary concept it would be. I think now we are obviously very desensitized to vampires as a pop culture icon, and it was interesting to just kind of step back and think like what would this have been like to a reader of the time, with you know, Gothic literature being a very popular genre, a more popular genre. And then Mary Shelley out of the same weekend comes up with her idea for Frankenstein and starts writing Frankenstein. So like these were happening at the same time, and just how like fresh and interesting this would have been for the modern reader. I think from my perspective reading it, it was very standard things you expect about a vampire. And the fear element with this particular story is that he is a wealthy man, like the vampire. He's a wealthy man, and he's an important man in society. Lord Ruthven is his name, and nobody can really touch him once like one of our main characters like kind of figures out what he is, and that he's not a normal guy. but he has this like wealth and power and also social influence, and nobody can do anything about it. And so that's kind of the fear element of this, which I found a very fascinating dynamic. Just looking at it from like a social perspective as well. People with money and power having like complete control and dominion over others who are below them, particularly women. Women tend to be the victim of the vampire, and they definitely are in this story as well. So it was a fun read, and kind of different to kind of try to think about the vampires from what would it have been like to have this be a fresh concept. I enjoy thinking about that. I did start reading Twilight in August, but I didn't finish it, sadly, so I can't exactly include Twilight in my wrap up this month, but I am still working on finishing Twilight. But that was my pairing with this idea of myth and then retelling. So still reading Twilight. I have read Twilight before, so it's not like this is a new story for me. But I'm having a blast. And I'll also comparing the two, the Polidori vampire versus Stephenie Meyer's vampires, I think it's cool how Stephenie Meyer's vampires, you see those tropes subverted. The vampires they're like not so bad. They're not bad guys per se. There are bad vampires in the world of Twilight, but like Edward in particular, we're not supposed to dislike him. He's not supposed to be like manipulative of Bella or anything. You know, he's like they are just a couple. So I think it was cool to like compare the two and think about how far we have come with the portrayal of vampires in pop culture and how much it has changed. Another book that I finished on my Kindle was The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie. This was my first Agatha Christie read, and I am now finally have an Agatha Christie under my belt, which feels good as a reader. I felt kind of silly that I've never read her before. So now I have read an Agatha Christie, and this is her first book in the Poirot series, and I think also her debut novel possibly. And I would like to read these in publication order. So I don't know if I'm just going to like go through Agatha Christie in publication order or if I'm gonna stick with Poirot for a while, but this is the first book in the Hercule Poirot series. I can never say his name. And I had a lot of fun with this. I can totally see the hype around Agatha Christie. She's very good, especially in this one. She is good at casting the suspicion on different characters, you know, the use of red herrings, a lot of that in this novel. So this novel is particularly surrounding a poisoning of the wealthy owner of a country English estate, and she is poisoned, and then the rest of the story is about who done it. So yeah, I don't have anything like revolutionary to say about this one. It was a very like straightforward mystery novel, but I did enjoy it, and I did enjoy the setting and Agatha Christie's characters. They're very colorful, and Poirot is very colorful. I will say he sometimes was getting on my nerves a little bit, maybe more because he had, I don't know, he has an ego. I feel like Poirot has an ego as a character, and I had been told by others that Poirot was an acquired taste a little bit, so I can see why people have told me that, and I think I could acquire a taste for Poirot. He's certainly not, he's not an unlikable character. It's just sometimes he would be like, I'm definitely the smartest person in the room, you know, kind of attitude. And I can see how that would maybe rub people the wrong way sometimes. But I enjoyed this one. It was fun. I'm definitely going to read more Agatha Christie at some point. I don't know if I'm going to try to like hit one every other month or so. But I would like to continue and explore Agatha Christie and her works and see if I can find some favorites. But yeah, this was very fun. I also wanted to mention that I read this one in honor of Janelle-a-thon, which I am participating in way late. But if you don't know, this is for Janelle-a-thon, was reading books that made you think of her. She is a booktuber who recently passed away. But I think Janelle would have been very happy to have had a hand in making another Agatha Christie fan. The next book that I finished was my reread of Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I'm so happy that I finally reread this. I had been meaning to reread this one for a very long time, and I was able to read this with Dia from the channel Novel Idea, and she was so lovely to buddy read this with. It was so fun to talk about this along the way, and this is the beginning of a trilogy, the Farseer trilogy, which I think was her first fantasy trilogy in the realm of the Elderlings, and so this is like maybe her first novel. I'm not sure about that exactly, but I've been assuming that it was her first novel. But this is about a young boy named Fitz, and from the very beginning of this novel you find out that he is a bastard child. He is the son of the king and a peasant woman, and he's never met his mom, and then he is obviously estranged from the king. He is an illegitimate child, and you see other people taking care of him and teaching him, and then he becomes kind of wrapped up in the happenings of the kingdom. And I don't want to say too much more, but there is the word assassin on the cover, so you might be able to maybe gather what happens to him at some point in this novel, but I won't say any more in case you don't know. And this was a reread. I knew a lot going in, but I had also forgotten a lot along the way. So yeah, I think this novel, I think my thoughts were pretty much the same the second time around. I like Robin Hobb's writing. I like the world, and I am intrigued by the happenings of the realm. And there are many heart-wrenching things in this novel, and I think that Robin Hobb can really evoke emotions very well. I think the characters become very alive and lovable, and I think the character relationships are the strongest part of this book. The character relationships that Fitz makes, people that become sort of parents to him when he has none, but people that come alongside him, and you can see that they care about him, and yet you also see like their dysfunction as people, and kind of sometimes Fitz being mistreated as well by some people, and just like the complex dynamics in the character relationships, I think is something that Robin Hobb does really, really well. What I still struggle with in this first book is that I feel like Robin Hobb introduces some storylines that she never follows through with on this book, and I know that there's more books, and I'm assuming there will be maybe some more answers, but I was talking to Christy about the whole trilogy, because she's read the whole trilogy, and she was kind of like, I don't know if there's answers to the things that you want answers to, and now I'm worried. So I don't know, I'm definitely gonna continue. I think Dia was not sure she was gonna continue, or she was leaning on not continuing in the series, but I will continue forward. And I'm hoping to just continue to enjoy Robin Hobb's writing. I definitely think she's stellar at crafting sentences and her worlds and her characters, and I think there's a lot of good things going for this novel, and I would like to see more of that. I'm just hoping that I get the answers that I want in some of the plot lines that are introduced, but definitely not resolved at all in this. So yeah, I am so happy that I have this fresh in my mind now. I will continue reading Royal Assassin, hopefully this month in September, and so that I am not gonna forget anything. The whole point of this reread was to be able to go on in the series before I forget things. So that is the plan. And then finally I have one more book that I finished in the month of August, and this was actually spread out over July and August. Did we start reading this in June? No, I think July. So July, August, and now I have finally finished Bleak House by Charles Dickens, this big old chunky book. So I like Bleak House. I was predicting that I would love Bleak House, And unfortunately, I don't think I love Bleak House. Very sad to say. I liked Bleak House. I think the first part of Bleak House, when we were very like wrapped up in the mystery of everything, I was doing well. And then I think I got tired. And what I'm realizing is that I think I like Dickens' shorter works. And then when he gets very long-winded, like in things like Bleak House, the Pickwick Papers, I also didn't love that one. When I've read like longer Dickens works, I experience a certain level of burnout, and I don't know if this is anything you can relate to, or any of you can relate to, but I think I am a fan of Dickens' shorter novels. Now, I don't know if I can say that even 100%, because I do love David Copperfield, and I think between Bleak House and David Copperfield, I definitely put David Copperfield a little bit higher. So I don't know. I don't know if I can say that completely, but Bleak House, at least I can say I did experience a little bit of burnout. I think with the amount of characters that we were following, with the change of tone. There's a very dramatic change of tone from chapter to chapter. I enjoyed both of those writing styles and perspectives, but it was always a little jarring to come out of one into another. So I don't know. I loved so many of the characters, and I loved many of the storylines. And then there would be times when I was like, why are we with this character right now? And what is the point of this scene? And I think the hard thing about this book is that you go so long without the big picture revealed yet. And while he's introducing more elements to the mystery of what's happening in this novel, he's also introducing other characters and people that you don't know and you're not really interested in following at the time. Like, you're like, no, just go back to the main storyline. I don't know. Sometimes I just wish he had let the reader follow a trail a little longer before he like stuck something else in there to interrupt the flow. So that's my 2 cents on Bleak House, but I still enjoyed this novel very much. I enjoyed the writing. I think there's some stunning writing in here, like stunning. Like some of Charles Dickens' best writing is happening in Bleak House. He is a seasoned, mature writer in this novel. But there was something about the length of this novel, I don't even want to say tangents, because I don't think he really went on tangents, but the things that he introduces, I'm not explaining this very well, but there's something about the long-windedness of this novel that turned me off for a little bit. Like probably in like the last half of the novel, I was like, we should know more things by now. Like, you need to give your readers more to go off of. And I realized that the readers at the time of this book would probably not have felt that way, because reading was a really different activity at the time. And perhaps this is a very modern reader problem, because I know that like the people that were reading this at the time were possibly reading it serialized, and they also experienced reading differently back then. And for the people who this would have been the target audience, like they would have had time to dedicate to reading a long story. And maybe that's also an element of I'm a person that does not have a lot of time to dedicate to a meandering story a little bit. But yeah, so that's just how it hit me as a modern reader. But I still think this is a very valuable Dickens book and stunning in many ways, and I absolutely did enjoy it. It's just not my favorite Dickens, I think, at least at this point. But I loved it. I like the resolution of everything. and I enjoyed watching Charles Dickens kind of take a stab at the absurdity of the Chancery Court and his social critiques as well. Those are all the books that I read in the month of August, and Bleak House, July and August, but you get the picture. Those are the things that I finished in the month of August. Let me know if you have read any of those, if you have any thoughts, or if you have any thoughts about what I said about them. I would love to know and have a conversation down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching my video today. I also have an Instagram and Goodreads and a Discord and a Patreon now, and all of that is linked down below. Keep reading great books, and until next time, bye-bye.